me just tell you who I am first. I am an Indigenous person. I am Chamorro, from the Northern Mariana Islands. I was born on the island of Guam. So I am answering these questions both as a person of Indigenous heritage and part of the leadership team on the Blue Nature Alliance. So, just before we dive into that, I actually think it's worth reframing your question a little bit. It's not that Indigenous people aren't consulted on ocean protection zones. It's that they're pushed to the side on all decisions concerning everything in their lives. Historically, this has been more about resource use, things like fishing, grazing, mining, forestry. And, of course, this also extends to conservation. You can look at the history of the national parks in the United States. So I'm not denying that it's an issue in conservation. It's just that it's a larger problem that also applies to conservation. But I would say that recently, ocean conservation has tried to get out front of some of these mistakes of the past. In the last 15 years, you've seen Indigenous people more involved in these conservation efforts, and you've even seen people such as myself leading some of these efforts. And I think, ocean conservation is taking some of the first steps, some of the first right steps here, and what we're trying to do is decolonize the conservation space. We are for sure far from a place where Indigenous people are the final decision makers in conservation. But to be honest, it would take a revolution of national ocean governance to make that happen, to have Indigenous people be fully in charge of the ocean space. Just within the context of the United States, is the United States willing to turn control of the American Pacific waters over to the native Chamorros, my people, to the native Hawaiians and to the native Samoans who live on those islands? Probably not. But we can make it easier to give Indigenous people access to the halls of power in Washington, D.C. We can raise their voices. We can bring attention to their values and their community needs. And, of course, yes, we can recognize the long-standing protections that Indigenous people have had and that are a part of their culture, and make that part of ocean conservation today.
So would you say there's